Hello, everyone. Can you hear us? Text in the chat. Say hello, Alex. Okay, we will wait 1 or 2 minutes because we are waiting for Steve and for some other attendees. I hope the topic is interesting for most of us. Stefan. Steve is coming. Hi, Steve.
Hi all. Sorry, I was stuck in traffic.
Don't worry. You are just in time, I think. We are still waiting for 1 or 2 minutes for all attendees to. Yeah, probably we can start.
What is the plan, Rocco? You have the presentation or?
Yes, basically the plan is to go for a brief introduction, and then we're gonna go case by case and explain what is your point of view as an umpire and what is my point of view as a competitor. And I think we're gonna have a bit of discussion on the rules and what to keep in mind while doing stuff in match race.
So for each scenario, you want to go first as a competitor, and then I jump in and say what we are looking from the umpire point of view.
Yeah, it's okay.
Perfect.
Okay, I think we can start. Ten participants. I think most of the others will wait for the after that, so they can't participate now. So introduction from it's the final session of the BORA Sailing Seminar series. It's I think a special session with both Rocco and Stevie. And yes, with some tactical and tactical station and decisions in match racing, I think it will be very helpful for all match racers in the group. So before we begin, I want to thank you all of you for being part of this seminar series. It was first of this kind of experience for us, and I hope you enjoyed and most of all it's helpful for you. One last favor, at the end of the session, I will share a short survey where you can tell us what you liked, what we can improve, and what kind of topics you'd work in the future if you want to participate again in something like this. And thank you. Feedback. Yeah, I will send the link for this survey in the chat and into the Facebook group. It's will be helpful for us. And let's. I want in the Facebook group to continue growing as a space for discussing our outings for sports sailing, some ideas, and we can learn from each other. The season is the corner, so okay. Now, thank you again for everyone. Thank you, Rocco and Stevie, and let's get started.
Okay, well, thank you for the introduction. We'll start with this last seminar, being that many of you had shown an interest on match race specifically. What we thought with Stevie was to give you some to discuss about some topics specific for this kind of activity, this kind of discipline. It will be quite a more technical seminar respect to the other that I did before, which were more generic and, let's say, it was more open to everyone. For this one, we're gonna suppose that you have kind of some basis in sailing and especially in match race, but we are open to any kind of question. So even if you have some basic question to do not hesitate. What we thought is to, being that well, I am a competitor and Stevie is both. I think is also a competitor, but mainly an umpire. What we thought to do is to bring you some standard cases, some standard scenarios that you normally would do in match race, and try to give some comments on that, both on rule sides and on competition side. So what to do on board. So first of all, I would rather do a brief introduction on match race and especially on which rule we apply on match race before beginning. So I think I will leave Stevie to do this. Please.
Yeah, so hi Rocco, hi everyone, also from my side. So as Rocco said, today the session will be more specific about match racing. So in match racing, there are a lot of different situations between boats. In this session, we cannot go through all of them. So I think we chose some of the more often ones, right, Rocco?
Yeah, yeah.
So about rules, match racing has a special set of rules. Actually, it is run under Appendix C. You can find this in the rule book. What Appendix C is practically is there are some changes in some of the normal rules that they are more suitable for match racing because match racing is only between two boats. And remember that we want the show to go on in match racing. So some rules are changed in order to fulfill those special requirements.
Yes. So in particular, what we have is it's Appendix C of the rules, and it doesn't change a lot in terms of number of rules which changes, but the ones who changes are really important. The change that you have between fleet racing and match race are not a lot in terms of number, but they're really fundamental. So we thought to show you some cases by following a bit the direction of the race. So starting from pre-start, going to the upwind and the downwind, and then at the end, if we have time, you can also ask for specific cases if you have any specific case to show. So I can begin. Let's say I will begin to show the screen. I think Yazen or whoever is the. Okay, no, I can do it. Yeah. So do you see my screen?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's begin with the first one. The first things that happen in match race, the first moment where the boats meets up in the pre-start. So we're gonna have the 4 minutes on the committee boat, and the boats enter in the pre-start area. It's unless the starting line is very is not directed to the wind, so it's not 90 degrees to the wind, the boat will meet up. So the yellow boat that is starboard will meet the blue boat that is port. From a competitor point of view, the things that you need to think about, well, first of all, is the timing. Remember that if you are over the vertical line of the pin end or the committee boat, you will take a penalty for that at the 4 minute. And remember also that you can be over that line at 4 minutes 30, but it's really about the picture that you have at the 4 minutes. So maybe Stevie, you can tell what you see before entering the line.
Perfect. So usually in big events we have two ribs. One is positioned on the exactly on the vertical on the pin end, which is the main umpire of the match, and the other one is positioned to windward of the race committee boat. So each one of them is monitoring the enter when each boat enters this H, let's say. So if you enter before the 4th minute, you will get a penalty.
So from a competitor point of view, it's a risk management situation. You want to be on time, but you don't want to take a penalty.
Perfect.
Being on time is important because if you are late, if let's say if yellow boat is late, it will allow blue boat to go on the right side of the starting area, which is the favorite one. If the blue boat is late, the yellow boat will be able to keep the blue boat on the left of the starting area. So this is really important to begin with. Let's say that both boats are on time and the line is 90 degrees to the wind. What will happen is that at the end of this situation, both boats will end up at to win. This is because the yellow boat is right away, it's starboard, so it will prevent the blue boat to go on the right of the starting area. From, let's say, if I am on the yellow boat and I'm the helm, or in general, if I am on the boat, my goal is to end up at the wind, to make the blue boat tack, and finish up in a situation where I am in control of the situation. So I in position 8 here, I cannot be, if I'm the yellow boat, too much close to the blue boat, because blue boat is right of way, but I cannot be too far away from the blue boat, because otherwise I leave him space to do something. So I need to be in the right lateral distance, but also what I really need to think about is my speed. That in 90% of the case, my goal is to be at the same speed of the blue boat. So whatever the blue boats do with the sails, if they back the main, for example, or if they move the jib, I want to copy and to be at the same exact speed. On the opposite, if I'm on the blue boat, what I want to do is to try to act in counter time with the yellow boat, to bring the yellow boat to do something and to act in a way that I can free me on regarding this situation and go on the right. So maybe Stevie, you can say what you want, what you see at the Empire.
Yeah, so the dial up is, well, it's pretty often, as you said before, when the light is not biased, or when it's set correctly. And it's also a situation that rules are changing very fast, and we need to be very careful for some small details that in many times they are confusing the competitors. So first of all, we need to understand when a collision course is set between the starboard boat, in this situation yellow, and the port boat. And from that time, we need to understand if it's yellow boat that is changing course or if it's the blue boat that is trying to keep clear from yellow. So in the first situation, when yellow boat is changing course, remember that you need to give room to the other boat to keep clear. So in a lot of situations, you end up with a green flag in situation in the dial-up, just because the yellow boat was always changing course, chasing the blue boat around. Another thing that we need to be very careful is in position 7, we need to make sure that the blue boat completed the tack. Otherwise, the blue boat will never acquire the right of way. Remember that we are not looking the sails in order for the blue boat, in order to understand if the tack is complete. We are determining if the tack is complete when the blue boat is on a close hold course, independently if the sails are trimmed or not. So the moment the umpires decide that blue has completed the tack, she acquires the right of way as leeward boat, and then, as Rocco said, depending on if you are on blue or on yellow, you need to do your tactics accordingly.
So just one thing, if you have any question on this specific, I see that Jose raised his hand.
Yeah, I think Jose raised his hand. So
I would say to write it down in the chat, and once that we finish with this slide, we're gonna reply, so that we don't go at the end of the seminar. Otherwise, we forget about our discussion. Another thing that the competitor needs to keep in mind, especially if it's in the yellow boat, is what I would suggest you to do in order to have a proper, let's say, reference to end up in the good situation, in the good position, is to always direct your bow to the stern of the blue boat. So if you direct your bow to the stern of the blue boat during the wall case, you will probably end up in the good situation when you are head to wind, meaning that you will not go too much forward, but you will not be too much backward. Because if you are in position 8 and you are yellow boat and you end up too much on the leeward of blue will probably have the space to tack and go on the right. So yes, on competitor side, I think that's it. And
just a couple of more things to add, especially at the end of the dial-up. So if yellow ends up being very close to blue, he is risking to be penalized because, as I said before, he will be the windward boat, so he has to keep clear. And another thing that you need to keep in mind is if you stay head to wind for some time, then boats will start to move backwards. And in match racing, there is no change in the rules when boats are moving backwards. So again, the yellow boat is the windward boat, and she still has to keep clear of blue.
Yes, always keep clear. And what I would suggest, if the blue boat begins to go backward and you are the yellow boat, no matter what you do, you will be in the wrong. So what I always do, if the blue boat begins to go backward, I will first wait for the blue boat to acquire some speed, and so that I'm sure that it is going backward, and then I will just go away. Because if you go away, in any case, you will regain control after the blue boat will stop going backward, because the blue boat, between the going backward and going forward again, it will stop, and so you have plenty of time to make a big circle and go back in control. So I always, from my experience, many times I saw and I got a lot of penalties because at the end the blue boat is still in a right of way when it go backward, and for the yellow boat it will be harder and harder to exit the situation the more time passes going backward. So let's say proper guideline to, if you are the yellow boat, just go away when the blue boat goes backward. I don't see the question from Jose. I don't know if he will do it or not, but in any case, if you don't have anything to add, Stevie, I would go to the next slide.
For this scenario, no, I don't have anything
Yes,
else to
just one final statement. The goal for the blue boat is to go on the right. The goal for the yellow boat is to keep the blue boat on the left. That's it. So don't lose time if you're the blue boat and try to go away on the left, because the more you go on the left, the more you are in a bad situation for the pre-start. Okay, so this one is, let's say, right after the circling, the dial-up. Let's say that the blue boats managed to do something to escape, and so there will be a situation where both boats, the yellow and the blue, will go on the right of the pre-start. It depends really on the level of the match race, but if you see match.
Before we go on the next scenario, I think there is a question from Bogdan.
Yes. If you are, for example, the yellow boat entering the line and you want to chase the blue boat since you were a little faster, which part of the blue you should point? Well, I would chase always the stern part of the blue. So always, if you see position 8, I will point always on the stern right part of the blue boat until it completes the dock, and then I will go at wind.
Can I add some to this question? Like if I'm a yellow boat, when I must start pointing the stern of the blue, because when I entering in position 2, 3, I'm not pointing the stern. When?
Yes, that's a good question. The fact is that the yellow boat will, before the blue boat needs to do something, the yellow boat needs to create a collision course. Otherwise, the blue boat is entitled to go straight. So once that you create the collision course and the blue boat respond to this collision course, so keeps clear, in this case by laughing, at that point, you keep in the direction of the stern part of the blue boat. So basically, you enter the line, you create the collision course, and then you point at the stern part of the blue boat.
But in this case, the blue can cross.
In which case?
If I start pointing the stern after I enter in the starting time.
No. I mean, you need, before pointing the stern, you need to wait for the blue boat to laugh.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
So you create the collision course. So let's say from position 3, blue boat is entitled to go straight. So it will not do nothing. From position 4, blue boat is already laughing in this case. So you know that his way of keeping clear is to laugh. At that point, you will keep the collision course and you will point its stern. In position 5, what I would do, a bit different from the image, I will point not at the middle of the boat, but at the stern. I will keep the stern in sight until I'm not at wind. Consider that the blue boat will 99% of the time will not jibe to keep clear, because in the interest of the blue boat is to go in the dial-up and to keep as right as possible in the starting area. So unless the blue boat is not late, for example, in entering the line, it will always go up at wind, or maybe unless he's convinced that he could cross in downwind. But it's a particular case. Here we're talking about the standard case, and this is 99% of what happens in a pre-start.
Can I add from the umpire's point of view? Well, if you decide to chase the boat, just be careful that when you are chasing a boat, there is a percentage and the possibility that you may end up with a penalty. So don't chase boats out of greed, but out of necessity, mostly. And what Rocco said about the collision course, from the moment yellow establishes a collision course with blue, blue has to keep clear. So what blue will do from that moment on needs to be, let's say, consistent with keeping clear. So I will give an example. If blue, after there is a collision course between the boats, decides to bear away and then decides to laugh up, then all the burden will be on blue. So most probably he will end up with getting a penalty if he doesn't manage to complete the attack.
Yes. Also, just another thing to add as a competitor, umpire, from my experience, umpire tends to penalize also if you are not consistent what you do. So once you decide how to keep clear, if you are a keep clear boat, you need to keep that until the end. Because if you do something and then you go back on your steps, what you did before will not be taken in consideration. So and the time goes forward, and then you will be in a collision. So even if you're a yellow boat or if you blue boat, whatever situation, if you're a keep clear boat, do something and keep doing it. Okay, so let's go to the next one. So as I was saying, the boats were going on the right side of the pre-start, and there will be this circling maneuver. The circling maneuver is basically what you use as a competitor to stay in a position or to decide whether you want to be back of the opponent or in front of the opponent. Let's make an example. If there is very light wind and you're going on the right side of the pre-start and you already decide that you want to be in front of the opponent because you want to arrive before to the start, because the risk is that if you are behind, you will be in bad air, then you use the circling to put yourself in that situation, in that position. One thing that is really, really important from a competitor side in the circling is to keep the speed up, especially when you use boats where they have big rudders. The circling slows down consistently your boat. So do not do it without thinking about the speed, but thinking only about the position, because it will be bad for you. When you go for a circling, prepare the crew to move the weights and do it slowly with the rudder, and follow the boat with the mainsail and the jib. It happens a lot of time that you do it without thinking, and maybe you don't think about moving the jib in the right way, or you use too much helm, and then you will be stuck in the water, and that is a vulnerable situation for you. You have anything to add, Stevie?
Yes. So from the umpire point of view, first of all, I would like to explain a little bit how umpires are operating on a rib. Usually there are two umpires in each rib, and each one of them is actually describing what one boats do. So one of them chooses the yellow one, and the other chooses the blue one. And they are constantly describing the maneuvers and the rules between the boats. So in this specific situation in circling, first of all, we need to be sure that there is enough space for the yellow boat to complete the jibe. I think we will see that in later on what I mean. But generically speaking, in match racing, there is let's say special rule that does not exist in fleet racing about jibing. And the boat, while it's jibing, she has to keep clear from another boat. So first of all, we are looking if there is enough space from the jibe to be complete. Remember that the jibe starts the moment the boom passes the let's say the center of the boat. So from that moment on, so from position 1 to 2, the boat is not jibing yet, not even from position 2 to 3. And then we need to make sure, because yellow after the jibe will be the right of way boat. So we need to make sure that while she's laughing, she's giving room to the other boat to keep clear. And at some point, yellow will be tacking. So again, we need to make sure that we catch the time that the boat passes head to wind, because from that time until she reaches close hold, she has to keep clear. So these are some crucial information that we need to get. So when the jibe starts, when the jibe finishes, while the right of way boat is changing course, and from the moment the boat passes head to wind until the boat is again on close hold. So these are the crucial information that we need during the circling. That's why usually the umpire is positioned to leeward of the boats in order to see the whole change of course and everything. And they can see also the distance and the gap between the boats when they are completing the tack.
So let's say that the boats are doing this. This is not the case, but let's say that the two boats are doing the circling in the same, let's say, circle. It happens also that the yellow boat.
Well, there are a lot of types of circling. So you have these. You have the one that they are circling simultaneously. You have circling on anti-clockwise. So there are a lot of.
From a competitor, I would say that the first things that you need to think about is always speed, no matter which is the type of circling. And then if you are very close to the opponent, then you begin to think about rules. But what happens normally is that you forget about the speed and you just think about your position, and it gets very bad for you. So any specific question on the circling? Yes.
Yeah, we have some questions.
Yeah.
If we are blue, must we do the jibe when we see yellow jibing? This is the question.
It depends. It depends on what, which is the position you want to take. So in this specific situation, what happens is that yellow decides that he wants to trail. So he don't want to be in front, and he wants to be behind blue going on the right. What I normally do with my tactician is I always ask him when we are in position 1, if I'm yellow or if I'm blue, I always ask him what he wants to do, where he wants to be while going back to the line. So there are two situations. Either you want to lead or you want to trail. What I normally use as a parameter is the wind. So if there is a lot of wind, I want to trail because it's easier for me to gain speed if I'm late, but it's harder for me to kill time if I'm early. On the other hand, if there is light wind, it's easier for me to ease the main or ease the jib while going back to the line and lose speed if I'm in front. If I'm back, it's very hard for me to get speed and if I'm late. So normally what I would say, rule of thumb, is if there is a lot of wind, I would like to trail. And in this situation, both one and in position 1, both tacticians are thinking about this. So what yellow decides is that he wants to be behind going on the right, and so he will be probably in front going back to the starting line. In blue, he saw either you go behind, as Yazen told, jibing with yellow to stay behind, or you go in front. And then what blue decides here, he said, no, I don't want to be in front, and you go behind again. So you see in position 16, the situation is the exact same of position 1. This is before heading back to the line. But if you, let's say if you don't want to do a circle, but you want to just jibe and going back to the line, the discussion is the same. If you are in front, you just decide when to go back to the line, and you are in charge of having the right timing. If you are behind, what you need to decide is yellow late? Then I will jibe before yellow. If yellow is early, then I will wait and I will jibe after. So it's really a matter of decision making based on the condition, on the distance on the line, on the speed of the boats. That's it, I would say.
Yeah, I think from the umpire's point of view, it's quite difficult to give a penalty during circling unless someone loses speed dramatically, which happens quite often.
Yeah.
And then he's in trouble because he will be on port after the tack, and then he needs to tack back without any speed. So it can become pretty messy. As umpires, we prefer the simultaneously circling because we are stationary and we can stay there for 2 or 3 minutes without doing anything. So it's quite awesome for us.
Yeah. And what Bogdan is asking, if there is an advantage of doing clockwise circling or anti-clockwise circling. I think this is more about rules, so I will let you speak.
Well, it's just a matter of a difference of rules that apply. So if you do a clockwise circling, as I said before, you need to make sure that you have enough space to complete the jibe, and then you have enough space to give enough room to the blue boat while you are laughing, and then complete the tack and be behind blue. With the anti-clockwise circling, you start by tacking. So again, you are losing your rights, but then when you finish your tack, you will be on starboard. So you need to make sure that while you are bearing away, you are giving enough room to the blue boat to keep clear. I think if you choosing whether you will do the anti-clockwise or clockwise circling, it's just a matter of where you are in the playground respect to the ley lines and respect to the starting line. Maybe Rocco can confirm that.
Yeah. It's we normally tend to prefer clockwise circling because you go leeward to the opponent and you are in a most powerful position.
Yes.
That's why I would say that there is an advantage actually of doing clockwise circling, because if you see, yellow is bearing away, and in position 9, when he finished to do his circle, he's a bit leeward to position 9 of blue. If he goes up and do the circle, he will probably end up here in this position where he began, let's say here. And blue is a bit leeward to yellow, and he has now a slightly advantage. Okay, so next it's about what we told before about jibing, the rule change in match race. So a little trick as a competitor, as a mainsail trimmer. When there is a tight jibe and you don't know if you have space enough to complete the jibe, what the mainsail trimmer normally should do is to bring the main on the other side with his hands, and once the main is on the other side, to pump the main in order to bring all the buttons on the opposite side. This is not because we gain speed or stuff. It's because how it works on the Empire boat. So what we want to do here is just showing the Empire that we complete the jibe as fast as possible. And so I will let Stevie say what happens on the Empire boat.
Yeah, so what we are looking for is, as I said before, the exact moment that the jibe starts, which is when the boom passes the center line of the boat. So I think usually in the Empire boat, the discussion that you will hear during a jibe is jibing, boom, done. So these are the words that actually mean that the boom is passing and done is when the jibe is complete. So what we want to see is the moment the boom is crossing the center line until the main sail is filled on the other side. So that's why Rocco is saying that they are using a trick is to pump the main a little bit earlier in order to fill it a little bit earlier to complete the jibe, in order to make the umpires saying done a little bit earlier. The moment the umpire says done, the boat acquires the right of way, because from position 2 to position 3 in the scenario that you can see, rule 10, 11, and 12, they do not apply between the boats. So from position 3 that the jibe is done, the normal rules, rule 10, 11, and 12, restart to apply between the boats. So that's why it's important to complete the jibe as much as faster as you can.
Yeah, you want to be the last time you can in position 2. Position
Exactly.
2, you are vulnerable.
Exactly.
So this is the next one. Wait a second, I need to. Okay, you see my drawings, right?
Yes.
So this is the same exact situation, but with another boat. So you are boat 1 and you want to jibe to acquire right of way, but there is boat. Sorry, you're boat blue and you want to jibe and to acquire right away, but there is boat yellow that is on port that is behind you. This is a tricky situation. It always happens. The aim of boat blue is to complete the jibe without taking penalty. The aim of boat yellow is to give a penalty to boat blue because boat blue didn't broke the rule. So it can happen in various situations, but what normally happens is that boat yellow will point boat blue until boat blue it didn't complete the jibe. If boat yellow needs to avoid boat blue before he completed the jibe, then it's a penalty on blue. But the important thing here is that what I tend to see is that boat yellow is entitled to point to create a collision course with boat blue until the last moment, until the boat blue didn't complete the jibe. What I usually see is that boat yellow will laugh before even boat blue did complete the jibe. I mean, this is, I mean, it will be nothing. You will not take a penalty as boat yellow, but you lose an occasion to potentially give a penalty to boat blue. So when you see a boat in front of you that is jibing, I would suggest you to keep the collision course until the end. And once that boat blue is completed its jibe, to avoid, unless you need to avoid before, because then if you don't avoid, there will be a contact. In that situation, if you need to avoid before, be sure that boat blue will be in trouble. And again, in the boat, when I'm boat blue, what I usually do is to try to gain speed. And if I am at the helm, I would ask to my tactician if he's confident or not to have a jibe inside. Because if you are in the helm, you will not probably have a clear situation in mind of where the wind will come. So if it comes from here or if it comes from here. So in that case, if it comes from the right and you didn't see it, you will have a lot of trouble completing the jibe. So what I would normally delegate to my tactician is to give me the call. You can jibe or you cannot jibe. And then it's under his responsibility if we get a penalty or not.
Yeah, so in this situation, I think you pointed out exactly the, let's say, the substance of this situation is if yellow has to change course while blue is jibing, then the penalty is on blue. If yellow has to change course after blue has finished the jibe, so in position 4, if there is no contact between the boats and there is a Yankee flag, it will always be a green. Because in match racing, boats can come very close together, but by laughing up and without having contact with the blue boat, it means that you have been given enough room to keep clear. So that's enough for the umpires to show the green and white flag. If the moment the blue boat completes the jibe, you try to laugh and there is immediate contact, then again the penalty will be on blue, because after he acquired the right of way in position 4, he didn't give you enough room to keep clear. So this is a very delicate situation for the umpire. So that's why I said before that we need to be pretty precise on when the jibe is complete.
Okay, so if you have any question, or well, we'll go on the next slide, and if you have any question, we'll come back. Let me. How do you go on the next slide? Okay, this is the situation where we are coming back to the line. What normally happens is that there is a boat that is leading and a boat that is trailing. In this situation, boat is leading and yellow is trailing. And what happens here is that the objective of yellow is not being cut out of the line. So yellow will always want to have the space to go behind blue. And the objective of blue is to keep yellow out of the line, but not leaving yellow take the overlap with blue. Not leaving yellow to take the overlap with him. So this is a classical situation that is called fishtailing. And again, who is in front and who is back is something about tactics, and is always depending on the wind and on which side of the course you want to start. Let's say if you want to start on the pin hand of the starting line, you want to be in front. If you want to start on the committee boat, you want to be trailing. It's that is something that is more about general tactics. But at the end, what happens is that both boats will go up and down, and what happens on the boat, if I'm boat yellow, my aim is to always keep speed up and to try to push blue as left as possible of the line, and try to gain the overlap, or to go up and never go enough close to blue to lose my space to bear away. If I'm blue, and of course on yellow, the helmman is looking at blue, the bowman is at the bow of the boat and calling the overlap, because if it's a big boat, you as a helm you will not see the overlap, and the trimmers, they will follow the helm without asking what the helm is doing. So the helm is not saying always going up or going down. The trimmer, they need to be on point with the mainsail and the jib. Another thing that is really important, and this is both on yellow boat and on blue boat, what I normally do on board is that the people that is in charge of keeping the time will have the final call, which is starting now. So if you going to do a fishtailing all the way on the line, there will be a moment where you need to go and start the race. And whoever picks this moment before will win the pre-start. So if the bowman of yellow, let's say the bowman is keeping the time, the bowman of yellow give the call, we are on, and the yellow boat laughs before blue boat, you will probably end up in a situation where yellow has a slightly advantage at the pre-start. And of course, it will happen also on blue side. If I'm on blue, the helm will probably helm looking behind, looking yellow. So he will not have any idea of what is happening in front. And this information needs to come from the bowman and from the trimmers. So the helmet will look behind in order to prevent yellow to take the overlap, but to stay as close as possible. And the bowman on blue boats will call the line, will call the time on distance. And one thing that is really important, the trimmers, they need to follow the helm movement without asking which will be the next movement, because the helm will probably not tell to them which will be. And also something that is really important for both for yellow and for blue, the trimmer, they need to keep an eye on the weight positioning. So if I'm going up, the trimmer will likely say to all the crew to go down and to help the boat and the helm to go up. And on the opposite, if we are going down, the trimmer will call the crew to go up, to press, and going down. So don't forget that the speed, even if it's a match race, is really, really important. I will let you, Stevie, about the rules here.
Yeah, so this is one of the most let's say exciting situation in the pre-start, because rules are changing so fast in this situation. So we have to keep mainly we have to focus mainly in two things. As you said, one is the overlap, and the other is changing course of the boats. So about the overlaps, so I need to point out in this scenario that when we have two umpire ribs, it's pretty easy because we have one wing that is always calling the overlap, so we can use that for our help. But in events that there is only one rib per match, sometimes it's not very easy to see the overlap. So I need to point out that for umpires and for competitor also, in Appendix C, there is a rule that is talking about the last point of certainty. So this rule says actually that the relation and the situation between boats will not be changed unless the umpires are certain that the relation has changed. So we will consider two boats not overlapped until we are 100% sure they are overlapped. And of course, the opposite way. So as Rocco described in this situation, there is a hunt and a big effort of boats trying to gain the overlap and boats trying to break the overlap. So we need to be very focused on that. One thing that I want to point out, and that I have seen in a lot of cases in match racing, is that boats that manage to establish the overlap, sometimes they establish the overlap so close to the other boat, and then immediately they laugh onto the other boat. And if there is contact, the penalty will be on them, because when they acquired the right of way, which is the moment they established the overlap, they failed to give initially room to the other boat to keep clear. So keep in mind that the moment you establish the overlap, you need to initially give room to the other boat to keep clear, which is pretty important. I think in let's say experienced match racers, when they establish the overlap, they don't laugh. Usually, or they go straight, or they bear away slightly in order to give to the other boat, the wingboard boat, the room to keep clear. And maybe Rocco can confirm that.
Yeah, especially when you have boats where the rudder is not at the back end of the boat, but maybe is a bit more in the center. And whenever you laugh, your stern will turn on the other side and will go downwind. And so if you create an overlap very close and the other boat replies right away to your overlap and it touches you because the stern goes towards you, then you are in trouble. Yeah.
Yes. So the next thing that we need to pay attention is when the boats are changing course. So if an overlap is established while the windward boat is bearing away and is establishing the overlap, then this rule about initially giving room to the windward boat to keep clear does not enter into play, because the other boat acquired the right of way because of the actions of the boat that bore away. So we need to be constantly very, very focused to see how the relation between the boats is changing. And because the boats are very, very close together, the umpires need to be very focused in this situation. Another thing that I have seen in the past is there are some wings that they are calling the overlap, calling the term technical overlap. To be honest, this term does not exist. The boats, they are either overlapped or they are not overlapped. So the technical overlap is, let's say when the bow is not, let's say vertical, but it's an angled bow, and the same is the stern of the boat. Maybe the bow and the stern, they are passing one above the other, and they are calling this technical overlap. But there is a call in match racing that it states that these boats are not overlapped.
I will do an example here.
Yes, perfect.
So this is the bow that
Exactly.
is. So here it's yeah. Well, I could have done it a bit more evident. So here they are actually overlapped because the bow is over, but if they pass one over the other and without touching, that is what you call technical?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
But this term does not actually exist in the rules.
Okay. Well, in a last point for tactics, one other thing that I forgot is that in the crew, the person who calls the time will also probably call the ley lines, because probably the helm in this situation is not in the position of knowing exactly where he is in the pre-start. So what I always like from the bowman is that he calls me if we are past the starboard ley line, or if we are past the pin hand ley line. In that situation, I'm in trouble. But basically, I want to know my position in the starting area while I'm doing this, while I'm doing fishtailing, and I don't have the time to look at it. So there will be a person on board that is in charge of saying me if I'm where I am respect to the line. Okay, let's go, because I think we don't have much time. So the next situation, it's about dial down. In match race, whoever is on the right of the course probably will have the right. So in upwind, especially, the boat that is on the right of the course will tend to protect that side of the course. And if you're approaching on the upwind, if you're approaching the boat that is coming from the left, what you want to do is to prevent the blue boat, in this case, to acquire the right side of the course, because after, when he comes back, he will be on starboard. So what happens normally is that yellow will try to prevent blue to go on the right side of the boat, and in doing so, he will bear away when he's approaching the other boat. The aim of yellow is either to make blue tack, but if blue is experienced enough, he knows that he don't want to tack in this situation, or either to make lose space and speed to blue enough that once that he will be back on starboard on the right side of the course, it will not be a problem for yellow. So here, if I'm yellow, I will start to bear away a bit in advance, enough to give space to blue to keep clear, keeping in mind that I cannot bear away over 90 degrees from the wind. This is something that Stevie will tell us right after. And once that I'm in collision course and I'm going towards blue, I need to keep in mind that it's always a bad idea to create a contact in this situation. Whatever you're doing, if you're yellow, it's always a bad idea to create a contact. If you're blue, you need to expect that yellow will bear away. So what I would probably do is to begin to slightly bear away before. And once that yellow is evident that is going to chase me, I will reply to his movement. The aim for blue is not to lose too much speed. So remember that on board, there is someone that needs to expect this and needs to call to the crew to be ready for this. An example is to ease the vang when there is a lot of wind before bearing away. Or another example is to use your weight to press to bear away if there is light wind, and also to ease the sails. So be prepared for this situation in advance. If you are yellow or if you are blue, whoever does this maneuver in the best way, with the best speed, will probably end up after having the advantage. I will let you speak about the rules here.
Yes, so rule-wise, there are actually, well, there is one rule that we are looking here, and this is rule 16. So first of all, yellow, when yellow is changing course, or whenever yellow is changing course, he needs to give room to the other boat to keep clear. So yellow needs to start bear away from, let's say, a certain distance, because if he does it at the last moment, then he will be in trouble. But another thing that we are looking at is whether yellow will be turned more than 90 degrees from the wind. And he's not allowed to do so. So he's not allowed to hand down the other boat more than 90 degrees from the wind. This used to be a call until last year. From this year on, is a rule in the rule book, which is 16.2, and well, everybody is used to it because it's been happening for many years. But if yellow bears more than 90 degrees from the wind, and then the other boat needs to change course in order to continue keeping clear, then yellow will be in trouble. Exactly.
The angle that we're talking about is the vertical between the angle between the vertical of the wind and the direction of yellow.
Exactly. So from position 3 on, if blue has to change course in order to continue keeping clear, then yellow will be in trouble.
Remember, in this situation, is not the only one, but in particular in this case, the umpire, they don't have any way to calculate the exact angle on which you are going. So do not risk it, because if you put the decision in the hand of the umpire in this case, it will probably as rolling the dice, because maybe you feel that you are 85 degrees and he feels that you are 95, and that's it. So I would not risk it in a dial down in upwind for sure.
Exactly. As I said before, each umpire is describing what each boat is doing. So when yellow's umpire will say that I'm more than 90 degrees, this is already a fact for the umpires. So we will decide the incident based on that fact, independently of what the boats are thinking.
Okay, so if you have questions, please don't hesitate. In any case, being that we are going maybe a bit fast, I would suggest you to write down your question and send it. And even if you don't have time today to discuss about them, we'll reply you writing the answer. This is a typical situation that, let's say, 3 or 4 years ago, was creating a lot of problem because it was an update from not the last one, but the rules from before. And so for 1 year, I raced in match race and I gave a lot of penalty because people didn't knew about this update. Now the situation is a bit more clear for everyone, so it will probably not happen. But in any case, it's a bit different. It's very different from what you think about when you think about fleet racing. So as you know, in match race, we are turning the marks, leaving them on the right of the boat. And so while if we're approaching on different tacks in the upwind, there will be probably a starboard boat, which is also entitled to mark room, which in this case is yellow. What the rule says is that you cannot, if you are entering in the mark room, you cannot go over your proper course if you also have the right of way. I will leave Stevie speak about more precisely of this, but from a tactical point of view, you just need to know that if you are yellow and you are approaching the mark, you need to round the mark. If you're blue and you are going towards the mark, you can expect that yellow will need to round the mark. So if I'm yellow, there is nothing to do. I just need to go on the lie line and tack. It's useless to gain some meter and maybe not tack in position 4, but tack a bit after is completely useless. You just risk to have a penalty. So if I'm yellow, I will probably round the mark without any hesitation. Once that I am on port, then I can decide to slow down or do something tactical. But before, it's just straightforward. If you're blue, you know you need to expect that yellow will tack to round the mark. So what I would probably do is to keep myself a bit higher than normal and try not to have the overlap in position 5 so that I will not round the mark on the outside, being in a vulnerable position because I'm on 5 is yellow is on leeward. I will probably try to not create the overlap, staying high so that when yellow round the mark, I can bear away and gain speed. That's it. So remember, yellow needs to round the mark, full stop. Blue can do something. I will let you, Stevie, maybe do some precision. Okay. I said yellow needs to round the mark, but actually it's not true. Yellow needs to follow his proper course. And in position 5, he can decide also to not round the mark, actually. So I will let you speak about it.
So just a small, let's say, historical facts. So this rule came into play not this term, the previous term, and before that, it was like a couple of years that it was under a test rule in many events. So actually, it's been around for at least 8 years. This rule. Nevertheless, a lot of people they don't know about this rule. So Rule 18 is completely different in match racing than that in fleet racing. And as you said, Rocco, even in upwind rounding marks and when boats are approaching the mark on opposite tack, there is a Rule 18 applies. So yellow in this case will be entitled also to mark room. And mark room for yellow is to round, to sail her proper course in order to round the mark. Nevertheless, when the boat that is entitled to mark room needs to tack in order to round the mark, she shall not sail further than the point that she would have tacked in order to sail her proper course. So that means that from position 3, yellow cannot go further than the place that if she was alone without blue in the water, she would have tacked by herself in order to round the mark. After the tack, there is no rule that requires her to round the mark, actually. So after the tack is a completely different situation. Another thing that the umpires are looking is what blue will do, because there are a lot of times that blue is getting into a trap by herself. So sometimes blue is seeing that there is a small gap between yellow and the mark, and he's trying to squeeze in there. And that will end up probably in a twin penalty or in a red penalty. Because in that situation, blue would have gained an advantage. Remember that yellow is still entitled to mark room until she leaves the mark behind. So blue needs to be very, very careful in this situation. As Rocco said, yes, yellow needs to tack at the point that she would have tacked by herself, and the blue needs to be very careful not to try to squeeze in between yellow and the mark. Another thing is that if yellow, for example, goes further from the point that she would have tacked by herself, but this does not affect blue, so blue doesn't have to make any change of course, then still yellow didn't break any rule. So the rule is only being broken if A, yellow goes further than the point that she would have tacked by herself, and B, blue has to change course in order to avoid her. So this is what the umpires are looking in this situation. And that's why usually we are staying here in between the boats, in the V between the boats. So from that position, we can see everything that is going on exactly. Everything that is going on between the boats. We can see the gap between the yellow and the mark. We can see the gap between blue and the mark. And we can see exactly when yellow is finishing her tack.
Just a general thing, this rule, this situation is not a game-changing situation for blue or yellow. There is not a real way to, let's say, use this rule to change the lead of the match. There is only a risk that some of the two will take a penalty for a stupid action.
Exactly.
So I think that the only thing you need to remember about this and do what the rules wants you to do without asking any question, but it's not something that you can use to do like some unless I never saw someone doing crazy stuff on this boat, on this thing. I don't know why my screen just restarted. You see the screen?
Yeah, we see the last slide probably.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Okay, so that was the upwind mark. I will try to go back. And now the last one is the laughing situation, laughing attack. So again, we are not talking about all the cases that can happen in match race because we would need like 1 month, but we're talking about the most interesting ones. And this one in particular, it is interesting not only for the rules, not only for the tactics, but also for the boat management on board of the boat, for the crew, the people that are actually doing this stuff. That is not easy at all. So what happens? It can happen that it can be on starboard, it can be on port, it can be with the spinnaker, it can be without the spinnaker. Here we are talking about the one with the spinnaker, which is the, let's say, the hardest one. It would normally happen with light to medium wind, because in strong wind you would never do something unless you didn't do it on purpose. So basically in situation 1, yellow is in a good position to cover blue wind, and it takes a bit of advantage, and what blue decide to do is to laugh and attack yellow. On both boats, you kind of expect this if you are the helm, but also if you are the bowman or the trimmer. So prepare for that. No, you need to know that I mean, you know it, but you need to remember that when you use a spinnaker in angle that are more that, let's say, 80, 70 degrees from the wind, the forces, the loads on the sheets will be quite heavy. And if you're not anticipating that, putting the sheets in the wind channels, the halyards in the wind channels, you will probably do a mess. And this is something that also the helmman needs to know. I would probably avoid this situation if I know that the crew is not prepared or is not experienced enough to handle this, because it's the best way to break everything. Let's assume that yellow and blue, they are super experienced match racers. So let's start from this starting point. So what blue will do is to laugh and try to inflict a penalty to yellow, because yellow is keeping clear boats, and blue is leeward boat. So what both boats need to understand is that you are doing something that the sailboat is not normally supposed to do. So you will be probably having a mainsail that is not completely filled. You will probably end up with a spinnaker which is blowing into the wind. On blue side, the objective is to laugh, giving space to yellow to keep clear. And the space includes also the space of dropping the spinnaker. So I'm not saying that you need to make a present to yellow, but you need to keep in your mind that yellow needs to drop the spinnaker and in order to keep clear. On yellow side, it's the opposite. They need to know on board that they will eventually need to drop the spinnaker. And in order to do this, they cannot just open the halyard and let the spinnaker blow with the wind on downwind, hoping that it will touch blue and then magically they will gain a penalty in their favor. The drop needs to be done in a proper way. So you cannot just open the halyard and push the spinnaker towards blue. You will, if blue it's enough close to this to yellow, probably at the end of this situation there will be some penalties. It can be any of the penalties. It can be yellow, blue. It can be both penalty. It will not be a double for sure. It will not be a red one, but it can be both in many situations. I had a lot of situations that it ended up even because the Empire thought that blue infringed a rule and also yellow did something wrong. So keep in mind that it can finish in every way. So if you are a bit desperate, let's say, and you want to do an all-in, I would rather go in this situation. But if I'm not desperate, if I'm blue, I will try to avoid to go in this situation. Also because here also the rules are changing quite quickly. So I will let Stevie speak about the rules.
Yeah, so usually we are expecting this kind of maneuvers, especially when blue has a penalty to offset. So usually the umpires are quite ready for those maneuvers. What we are looking for is exactly what you said. So one, if yellow is keeping clear as windward boat, and two, if blue is giving enough room to yellow to keep clear when blue is laughing. And exactly as you said, and this is very important, at some point, blue has to give room to yellow to drop the spinnaker. And blue has to give room to yellow to drop the spinnaker in a seaman-like way. So if the boat has already broached and the crew is falling on the water and they are trying to drop the spinnaker, that means that most probably blue didn't give enough room to yellow to do so. So at some point, we need to see, and we need to be very careful to see blue to try to drop the spinnaker. And as you said, it's not enough just to open the halyard. We need to see a proper spinnaker drop. if that time comes and yellow decides not to do anything, then that room has been given to yellow, and yellow decided not to take it. So from that moment on, it will be entirely on yellow to keep clear. So blue doesn't have to give room endlessly to yellow to drop the spinnaker. It's just a matter of seconds. And if we see that the yellow is dropping the spinnaker, then blue needs to give a little bit more time in order for yellow to bring the spinnaker down. But yes, this is a very hectic situation when things are happening very fast. There are a lot of shouting between the boats, and we need to be very close to the boats to monitor everything. What we need to be very focused is that usually there is no contact between the hulls. So we need to be looking higher up in order to see contact between sails and shrouds, spinnaker and shrouds, spinnaker poles, or top of the mast and shrouds, or things like that. So usually the contact will happen higher up the boat. So we need to make sure that we are looking also for that. But rule-wise, I think the crucial point is what you said, that we need the crucial point is when yellow has to drop the spinnaker. And remember that it's yellow that has to drop the spinnaker and not blue. So the windward boat.
Something tactically speaking, blue, which is in front of the match now and is the one who is in control of this situation. If I am blue, I will look at yellow. Yellow in this situation will probably end up being in hard times because he needs to do a drop in a difficult situation. Before I get also in hard times, I would go away. So if I see that yellow has the spinnaker that is half drop and someone who's trying to take it in and the jib is not hoisted, in that situation, it's a good moment to go away. And if you do it in the proper way, you will gain a lot of advantage. And you can also gain enough advantage to kill a penalty, for example. So do not, my suggestion if you are blue, do not end up in a difficult situation as yellow is, because you will probably end up colliding, and in that situation, it's again dice, rolling the dice again. You don't want to do that. If you are yellow, I would probably not end up in this situation. If you see in situation one where yellow is covering the wind of blue, I would not end up creating an overlap and going up of blue, because I'm putting myself in a difficult situation. If I'm really faster because I'm giving bad hair to blue, what I would probably tend to do is to try to gain the overlap downwind, leeward, and to prevent blue to jibe, for example, or to just jibe on top of blue and go to the wind to the leeward mark and try to gain the mark room. But I would try to not end up in this situation, because it can get only worse for me. Okay, so that's it. I think this is the last slide.
I think there is a question from Yasen, but
I think is the one that I just replied. It's
okay.
I don't know. Tell me, Yasen, but is about this situation when blue is the right time to go away.
Yeah, exactly. You answered.
Okay.
Thank you.
So again, we ended up doing a bit. We ended up with a lot of time. So what I suggest, being this is a quite difficult topic, and maybe you can have time to think about it, is to send us the question, writing the question, and we will try to reply writing it. It will be probably more efficient rather than do it right now. What do you think, Yazen?
Yeah. I agree with that. So I think we can going to the end for this evening because it's a little bit late. So if there is no questions, thank you everyone for participating this evening and in all the sessions. And hope we will stay in contact in the Facebook groups and in personal contact. And hope we see you in some races. So Christina, have some questions for me? Christina? Okay. Okay. Thank you again, and have a good evening to everyone, and see you. Thank you to Stevie and Rocco again for all the seminars, and
Yeah, thank you. It was cool. It was cool. It
Yeah,
is.
thank you very much. I think it was a great time.
Yeah, and also we tried to. I think we managed to give you some practical tools when you will be heading back in sea. I don't know when it will be. I will be next week. I will be in Antibes for a match race. I don't know if you, Stevie, you are there. And
No,
probably
next week I will be in an IQ foil event. So
okay, and probably we'll see with Yazen at the in April when we'll do this training.
good. And we have also the Balkan Matrix Tour. I think the dates are already published, right, Yasin?
yeah, the dates are 15 and 16 of May. So we already have 5 teams registered. So
Good.
we have only three spots available.
Good, perfect.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, guys. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Have a good evening. Bye bye. Bye bye.